Meta is doing some pretty wild things to our Facebook ad creative. They are making far more adjustments than most advertisers are aware of, and in this video I'm going to show you what's happening and whether or not you should let Meta make those changes. So to demonstrate what I'm talking about, I'm in an example Facebook ad account. I'm in Ads Manager and I've created a quick example campaign and I'm at the ad level. Now you can see that Meta's just pulled through a default image that's associated with my Facebook page, but if I come down to this ad setup section and then I enter my own creative, so let's just delete that out, what Meta put in automatically, add media, and then I'm going to add in an image. Okay, so I've just uploaded the image associated with my new podcast, which by the way you can check out. It's called Ben Heath Podcast. It's not just Facebook ads topic, I'm also talking to people around personal branding and talking to people from all different walks of life and stuff like that, in case you're interested. But let's say I wanted to run an ad promoting this podcast. I've uploaded the image associated with it. Now the first thing that you'll see here, before I get to the automatic changes that are taking place in a minute, is that we've got this crop for placement section. So I've uploaded an image that's in original, which is 1-to-1, which will work fine for feeds and similar placements. It's not going to work so well on stories and reels and vertical placements, and again the same with third search results, right hand column, things like that. But I'm not going to focus on this too much because I've recommended creating different images for different placement options. I just wanted to walk through the process of getting the image in place because of this section here. Okay, so what we can see here is that Meta said optimize your ad with Advantage plus creative, and that's really the topic of this video, Advantage plus creative, what used to be called standard enhancements. And what Meta's doing is they're using a number of different AI tools to automatically make adjustments to our ad creative, to make changes. Some of those are good, some of those not so good. And what I want to say before I go through each one individually, because I think that's important, is that we do use most of these optimizations most of the time, but not all of them all of the time. And you have to go through for each ad and work out, do I actually want this in place? Is this going to make my ads better or worse? Is this going to ruin my ad creative? Because that absolutely can happen if you let Meta run amok and do whatever it wants with this stuff without actually sense checking it yourself. Okay, now most advertisers, and this is why I showed you the process of me adding in this image, most advertisers will just go with the default, which is to have all optimizations ticked, click done, and then they move on, and then it's just whatever Meta wants to do with it, they can go ahead and do it. I think if you want the best possible results, you need to take more control and particularly be careful that Meta aren't going to ruin the way your ad creative looks, particularly if you've put time and effort into making it look a certain way. Okay, so we can now see a preview of each of these optimizations, each of these enhancements, and what that actually looks like, and we can therefore decide, do we want to go ahead with it in this scenario or not. Okay, we didn't used to have these previews, you just had to go with the lot, and this is a much better setup. Okay, so firstly we've got the original creative, and you can see we've got different previews here depending on like different placement options and what it's going to look like and things like that. So you just get a sense of, okay, how is this going to look? The first optimization as part of Advantage Plus Creative that we've got here is relevant comments. So you'll have probably noticed this is not just applies to Facebook, Instagram, also other social media platforms, where they're not just listing out all the comments in chronological order, they will rank them based on relevancy. So this will be the comments that get more engagements, more replies to, they appear higher up. I do think it makes sense to leave that on for most advertisers. It can be a scenario where if you're going to get a lot of negative comments that you might want to not have this on, because the comments that then get lots of engagement, those are the ones that are going to be at the top. And if you get a lot of negative comments because of what you advertise for some reason, you probably don't want those to be at the top. I would recommend that most Meta advertisers go in and manually check those once a day, let's say once every few days, depending on your ad, and make sure you remove negative comments, because that's just not a good look for your brand. And often people are going to say negative things that are completely untrue, and you definitely want to get rid of those. But provided you're not in that scenario, then I think leaving relative comments on is fine, and that's what we'll do most of the time. This next one is really interesting, okay, music. So I think music is probably one of the most common ones that we won't just leave it as is. So what Meta's looking to do here is they're trying to effectively convert an image in this scenario into something that's closer to a video. I don't think we can really say it is a video because it's an image with some music, but it's giving it some more richness that's hopefully going to help get people to engage with it. And of course we want people to engage with ad creative because that's the first step that they need to do before they check out our offer, come through to our website, buy, become a lead, etc, etc. Okay, so that's just been added in, right? I don't think that's terrible for a podcast, but in our scenario, we would probably want to change that. And that's something that we often do, because often you will see the music that Meta's automatically grabbed and you go, that doesn't really match up with this business's brand. We need to make adjustments. Fortunately, you can quite easily, right? So you can just come down to this little section here and click on change music, right? And then you can see that the default here is automatically applied based on your media and music popularity, but they give some suggestions up here, but we can go through and we can select all sorts of different options. Some are going to sound very different. We can come up to the top here and search for genres, specific keywords. Maybe you've got an artist in mind, you can have a look and see if that's in there, and you can go ahead and make sure that your like what music is being applied with these optimizations through Advantage Plus Creative actually fits your brand and sounds good and things along those lines. And you can see a preview over here on the right hand side when you update this. So obviously this is like an Instagram Reel version, and we can change to the other placement options that this affects, where Meta would add music and where that would be appropriate, like Reels and things, for example. So yeah, you can go through and have a look, and this can take a lot of time. I would encourage you not to spend ages on it, because I don't think it's that high a leverage activity, but you absolutely want to make sure that you find something that suits your brand. Let's go ahead and click next and go back to the enhancements, the optimizations that are part of Advantage Plus Creative, okay? The next one we've got is image filter. Now this is automatically turned on, and what image filter is designed to do is designed to enhance the quality of the image. So if we can see the before and after, that this one's a little bit sort of darker, it doesn't look as good. They've brightened this one up. They might adjust things like the contrast. If you've been posting on Instagram, as most people have, you'll understand like what filters can do to images and things like that. Well, this is all automatic. This is using an AI-based tool to make your images look better. Most of the time, we're going to leave that on. However, if we've got an image that's been taken by a professional photographer and they've already edited it, and it looks exactly how we want it to look, that's the sort of scenario where we might go ahead and turn it off. So just have a think about the image in question and think, do I actually want anything done to this? Maybe, maybe not. So for this, for example, this is an image that's been created by a graphic designer. I think it looks really good. It already stands out. The colors are great. We don't want Meta to be messing around with this if we're going to be advertising the podcast. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off. And that, by the way, is how you turn any of these off, is you just click on the little drop down and then toggle from on to off. You'll see that the default is for them to be on. Okay, so let's now scroll down to the next row of Advantage Plus Creative optimizations. There are a whole bunch. And here we've got 3D animation. Now, something went wrong while we were creating your preview, please try again, seems to happen nearly all the time. If you upload a very simple image, let's say a basic product and a bit of text, then it seems to work sometimes in that scenario where it will animate. For example, it will bring the text on, things will move within your image, it'll make it look that way. But most of the time that just doesn't seem possible. If you have got a preview of what that's going to look like and you like what it looks like, you can go ahead and use it. If you haven't got a preview, like it's like this, it says it's on, but in my experience, it won't run. If you want peace of mind, you can always go ahead and turn it off just in case they create something whilst you're, not being able to show you the preview. But I think most of the time where that is available, I would use it. And I think as Meta improves this AI tool, I would expect that we will use this more and more as advertisers, because I think that animating what could otherwise be a relatively boring image, particularly when you combine it with music, basically turns an image then into a proper video. That's likely to help most advertisers produce better results. Not all, you can always test it, but something to be aware of. Okay, so next we have image template. Now you can see what Meta's trying to do here, right? So they've taken the image that I've uploaded, which was square, which is 1:1 ratio, and they've added in this headline section, what they call a template, up above. Now that says headline, that's not necessarily going to be the headline from your ad, it's just some of the text that you have included alongside the ad is then going to be used and put up there, because it'll usually be shorter. This can look a little bit clunky. It can, like with this, it goes kind of okay because we've got like the dark purplish background, so like having a purple head is kind of fine. Often this does look a bit ugly and a bit clunky and people want to turn it off for that. In my experience, ads with this do tend to perform better. So I would encourage you most of the time to leave it on, but if you're like, that just does not look good at all, we've got a really cinematic style image, something that looks fantastic, and that headline just, it's not on brand, it doesn't look right, you can go ahead and turn it off. And you can also see that there are different preview options here. So for example, the first preview, like that font looks a lot better than that font in my experience. Like that one doesn't look so good going with it. And the other option that you can of course do, if you do want to include image template, but you don't want to go with the default that Meta's just generated, you can come in here and adjust fonts and colors. So you can see that it affects two placements. So we've got the Facebook mobile feed, and then we've got the Instagram feed. So I might decide that the Instagram feed looks fine. I'm going to leave that as is, but with the mobile feed on Facebook, like I don't like that font at all. So instead, with the text style, I can go ahead and change it to, you know, I'm not going to go through the various options now, but let's say I wanted to change it to that font because that's more in keeping with the brand. And instead of the color that's automatically been generated based on the image itself, I could be like, no, I want a garish red headline. I mean, that looks terrible, but you might have brand colors, brand fonts that you're able to use, so you can come in here and fiddle around with this and make it better and make it how you like. Not something that a lot of Facebook advertisers are aware of, so just wanted to make that clear. Okay, so I've gone ahead and reverted back to automatic just for demonstration purposes. So that was image template. Then we've got visual touch-ups. Now this overlaps to some extent from what I can see with the image filter, and that if you hover over the little eye next to it, they talk about changing brightness, contrast, things like that, which is obviously something that could be applied in the filter stage, although filters could do other things to make your image ad look better. But the difference here really, for me, is varying the aspect ratio. So obviously we've uploaded a square image. I would usually recommend that you have different aspect ratio images for the three different sort of placement categories, the feeds, which are square or say 4:5, and then you've got vertical, which can be 9:16, and so forth. And you can see like what Meta might look to do here. Like to me, that doesn't look good because we've got the text cut off. That doesn't make sense. We would need to go ahead and change that. But there are sometimes images where you can quite easily change the aspect ratio from within the one image. You don't have to have different versions. Like if we didn't have the text, for example, maybe that would work just being cropped and expanded automatically to fill a vertical format. That's going to really depend on the image that you go ahead and upload. But again, you can turn this off if the image has already been professionally edited and you really like the way it looks. You don't want any contrast or brightness adjustments, and also you're very happy with how it looks. Like you don't want it to be cropped and zoomed in. You don't want to lose details. You can go ahead and turn this off, which is probably what we would do if we were just using that one image. Then we've got this feature that you may have heard me talk about before called text improvements. Now it used to have a different name, but basically what it allows Meta to do is take any of the text that you've used for your headline or your primary text or your description and move them about. So they could put what you had written for your headline in your primary text and move it vice versa and all that sort of stuff. I think that's a good feature to have turned on for beginner Meta advertisers, because you're probably just writing good things about your products and services and giving Meta the freedom to work out which one produces the best results in which location is fine. If you're more advanced and you're thinking about it from a user standpoint, when people see your ads, how they're going to go through the ad and consume it, you want to take them on a bit of a journey, you absolutely want to go ahead and turn this off, because there are scenarios where what we've written as a headline would not work as a primary text and vice versa. It would just look out of place, it wouldn't really make sense, it wouldn't flow as we want it to, in which case we often turn that one off. But I think it depends on how you've written your ad and again, how experienced you are as a Meta advertiser. Okay, and then we've got Expand Image. Now Expand Image is quite a cool AI tool that basically takes your image and then, if possible, will expand it to fill the different placement aspect ratios that we're after. So for example, often if you upload a square image, they will automatically generate what would likely be above the image and what would likely be below the image. Again, this is a tool I've briefly talked about before. This image it hasn't been able to do it, which kind of makes sense, because like what would you put above and below it? That'd be really difficult to automatically generate. But often we might be uploading an image with, like, let's say there's sky at the top of the image, and you can expand more sky to fill vertical, if that makes sense. The AI tool can automatically generate that. We've done the same with product images where there's a background. It's just like, okay, we'll just make more background. And that's a good tool to use because it's going to make your ads look better, usually on the Reels stories placements where you want to expand vertically, assuming you've got a square image or a 4:5 image or something along those lines. Again, you absolutely want to make sure that you check the preview. I haven't got one here to show you, but you check the preview to make sure that it does look good. And if it doesn't look good, absolutely go ahead and turn this off. This hasn't worked with this image anyway, so leaving it on or off makes basically no difference in this circumstance, but just something that you want to be aware of. One other thing I want to quickly mention is a free webinar I've created called 3 Killer Facebook Ad Strategies to Double or More Your Revenue. And in that webinar, I focus on strategy, because it doesn't matter how good your ad creative looks, whether it's optimized or not, or all those sorts of things. If you haven't got the right strategy that you're using in the first place, nothing else is going to work. That's the foundation that you have to get right at the beginning, and then you build everything else on top of that. It's a completely free webinar, and if you're interested in watching it, there is a link in the video description below. You can click on that and literally go ahead and watch it right now. I think it'll be well worth your time if you want better results with your Facebook and Instagram ads. Okay, and then once you're happy with all those, you can go ahead and click done, the blue button on the right hand side. And if you do change your mind, you don't have to go ahead and re-upload the image. You can just go ahead and click edit and edit media, and that'll take you back into that optimized section. Well, you can also go in and crop as well, or replace the ad creative for those different placement options, you know, the vertical, the very landscape, and then the sort of square or 4:5 ratio. And then of course it always makes sense to just make sure that you're taking a look at the ad previews and what things look like, and also keep an eye out if you are served your own ads, just to make sure, okay, yeah, that looks how I want it to. Every now and then you will see an ad and go, oh, hang on, I don't think I had it set up that way. You need to go in and adjust things, because it's easy to adjust something and think that your ad's going to come out one way, and one of these optimizations through Advantage Plus Creative is going to change things a little bit in a way that you didn't want to. Another thing that's worth noting is that even if you have them all turned on, it doesn't mean that Meta's going to use them all the time. So let's say, for example, the image template, you know, you put in the headline up above. Sometimes if you have that turned on, sometimes Meta will use that, but not always. And they're going to vary that depending on your ad. They're also going to vary that depending on individual users. And this is where Facebook's machine learning process starts to get very, very intelligent, where they know that this person is more likely to engage with an ad if there is a headline and sort of a banner at the top of it, versus this person is less likely to if it looks like that. Perhaps it looks more addy to them and they're less interested. Now, these sort of individualized adjustments and optimizations are absolutely going to help us as Meta advertisers get better results. But just to be aware that, again, if you've got some of these turned on and you don't see it when you're served your ads, or someone else doesn't see them, that doesn't mean that it's not on or not working. It just means that Meta, at its discretion, is working out, okay, we'll use these here, we won't use these here, we think this will get the advertiser the better results. Ad creative adjustments are not the only things that Meta has changed recently. They've also completely changed the way that Facebook ads targeting works. In this video, I explain what the change is and what you need to do about it as a Facebook advertiser. I'd strongly recommend you go ahead and check this out.